We got good news, bad news from our buddy Rod Ferguson, and might finally be able to answer the question on loot filters. Let's begin with the good news first. Gilded Goblins Galore is returning to Diablo 4 on March the 4th to March the 11th, where the whole map is being flooded with goblins. And we're actually getting 6 new goblins. And I'm going to fast forward to the most amazing one straight away because I can't wait to tell you. Because they're adding Fancy Old Frederick, the rarest goblin in existence. This goblin is the stuff of legend, maybe even myth. Some believe this goblin to be so incredibly rare its very existence is called into question. Managing to kill Fancy Old Frederick grants a mythic unique, a resplendent spark, and earns you bragging rights for all time. Now he's supposed to be rare, for you may never once get this 1 in a million chance again. But you want to hunt goblins anyways to climb the goblin slaying ranks, to earn reputation, to get even more treasure and resplendent sparks anyways, to craft you any mythic that's still missing. Another goblin is the Gelatinous Cyrus. Oh, I don't know if that's rightly pronounced. Sorry, I'm German. This one will drop 1 legendary item with an increased chance of dropping additional legendary items at higher torment tiers, gold and boss summoning mats, and the chance for an elixir. Nothing too special. Curious Merle as well. That's the purple one. This one will be dropping Obols. Now they did nerf Obols, but we're also getting some answers to the Obol vendor and the Obol balancing in a Q&A with the Diablo devs, so maybe Obol vendor is returning to be better than ever. Followed up by Glittering Prim, or Edward, how we call him because he glitters in sunlight. He's going to be dropping you gem fragments and runes, and then also Undercity tributes and Scattered Prisons. We get 2 more. The Gilded Baron, that one is dropping copious amounts of gold and also the treasure bag. You all know treasure bags have been quite insane. Lastly, that is Odious Actor. And Odious Actor is dropping crafting materials and at higher torment tiers, even Opticide. Hunting goblins will not only get you, well, potential mythics, runes, tributes, obols, but also crafting materials and reputation. It's quite some fun event there. Now that was a little bit of good news. The bad news posted by our buddy Rod Ferguson, general manager of Diablo. Hey everyone, in the spirit of serving the game, not the plan, Season 8 will take a couple weeks longer to bake than we initially anticipated. The team has been hard at work on some great updates coming in the next season, so stay tuned. Looking forward to seeing an old friend. Now since he said friend, I would assume that it's going to be an enemy returning. A new boss, pinnacle boss, something in that direction, because friend would indicate more a foe than a friend. This sucks, and the new date seems to be the 29th of April, instead of formerly being the 15th in the middle of April, which might actually be a good thing, because Last Epoch is releasing their latest super update with new skills, events, dungeons, bosses, everything, around the 2nd of April. So if you're interested in that, the delay of Diablo is not actually bad news. It's good news because you can play more Last Epoch. What about loot filters now and some other burning questions? Class balance, Barriers being OP, Profane Mindcages returning, seasonal mechanics. We have an interview, burning questions answered, from the Diablo devs directly, and I think we should straight away start at loot filters because I want to know what their stance is.
How about a loot filter?
Yeah, so the way that we think about loot in Diablo 4 right now is that we want you to basically use like every part of the animal. And what I mean by that is when you find loot, when you find legendaries, even if you don't plan to use them, we want you to be able to salvage them and for that to flow into the economy of how you're interacting with systems and like the blacksmith and the enchanter and all the different crafters. And so we want those drops to be valuable to you regardless of their context or their position. And we won't ever say never to a loot filter wholesale. And that's something that we want to hear people's feedback from the community on all the time. And I think that's really important. But right now, that's kind of how we're thinking about it.
So another thing.
Okay, so they didn't say no, but they said probably not. That being said, in Diablo, the loot is following right now. You're looking for ancestral legendaries, and that's a loot filter in itself, because at some point I stopped picking up legendaries, and I only pick up ancestrals. Compared to other ARPGs like Path of Exile 2, where just way more loot is dropping. A loot filter in Diablo doesn't seem necessary, as we in the endgame just have legendaries and ancestrals. We don't have any crazy amount of currencies, weirdness dropping 20 different things. Nah, just that. What about the Obol vendor? Because they nerfed that into the ground.
All right, serious question. Okay. The Obol vendor, what the hell?
Yeah.
Seems undertuned. Yes.
So we're constantly rebalancing, the economy and trying to make it as satisfying as possible. And I think we unfortunately way overshot the Obol vendor in Season 7. We want to make sure that the Obol vendor is something that feels really good to engage with. And we also want to make sure that whenever you do end up going and dumping all of your Obols into the gambler, that you walk away with, feeling satisfied. And we want to make sure that the gambler's coffers are overflowing with wondrous items once again.
Maybe we'll go into a little spicy question.
Damn, yes, please. I mean, right now it's a tragedy. I walk up to this man, I drop all my Obols in there, and hell, I mean, that was one single ancestral, not even a unique. I want my Obol vendor back. That gives me at least basic versions of my beautiful uniques that I can have just way more fun with picking out the things. We got class balance, and we all know that that's terrible. But what about barriers? Because barriers are broken. You kind of have to play a barrier or you're going to die instantly in Diablo 4, unless you have copious amounts of HP, but even then, barriers seem so important. And they also interact weirdly with elemental resistances. So I'm intrigued to see what they're actually going to be saying about barriers. And afterwards, we're going to go to class balance, which is a bit off. Necromancer OPOP.
Barriers. What is it associated with? Anger, frustration. Game design is messy, and we are always experimenting with new things, and we put a lot of barrier in this season. Like, we love certain things.
This is not about personal barriers, guys. This is about barriers on the opponents, huh? Because personal barriers are actually broken.
Barriers, but we're going to bring them back, and they're going to be a little bit more tuned, a little bit
refined.
Yeah, a little more refined.
Yeah.
That's fine too, because right now enemies, bosses that have barriers on them, and it felt like they had more barrier than they actually had HP. So let's say they have 1 million HP, they felt like having 5 million barrier. Kind of odd, especially since you as the character, if you have 20,000 HP, you can only have 20,000 barrier. Okay, surprised me on class balance, and I met this man in person. He's very smart and knowledgeable about the game. So hit me.
So some builds are great, some builds are not so great. What's the deal?
Yeah.
What's the deal, Charles?
Diablo 4 is a big game, man.
Yeah.
There's so many things going on, right? You got all kinds of legendaries, and you got skills, and you got classes, you got Paragon. There's just naturally going to be some outliers sometimes. Some things are going to be strong, some are going to be weak. We're working really hard to make sure that it's the best possible, but it's a hard job.
Because sometimes you have like one random key passive that
yeah.
you're like, oh, that's a multiplier.
Yeah, and we want to add in brand new stuff every season that's flashy and exciting, and sometimes that misses the mark. Sometimes we're so excited about making this thing cool, we tune up the numbers just a little too high.
Class balance is always a hot topic for.
Okay, that was the non-answer.
Could you maybe shed any insight of what you're looking to do, what the team's looking to do to improve on that?
Definitely. Necromancer Bloodwave, incredibly fun to use, very visual.
In the
It
dumpster.
changes up the way
In the
the
dumpster.
gameplay feels, it targets differently, it looks different. But I think one area that it kind of falls short is on the player journey side. You pick up those new unique pants, right?
Yeah.
And you are just destroying everything. It's just such like a massive amount of power all on one item.
Yeah.
So we want to focus more on each build feeling like there are multiple puzzle pieces you have to collect, which is much more satisfying as you move into the late game.
You get more of a journey where like,
Yeah.
I've done this, now I can accomplish
Exactly.
this thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Excuse me, but that kind of falls short of the philosophy of what uniques should do. Because they said they want uniques to be these amazing build-defining, clipper-clapper, super amazing uniques that when you use them, they're wham! Like, right, they're making a build good. Which it does for Bloodwave right now. And now he's talking about getting multiple pieces for the puzzle. I'll agree that the player journey is bad for Bloodwave because you play something else until you play Bloodwave. Which is fine in my eyes, because you have minions to play until you get Casimi's Legacy, and then you're just, boom, straight up blasting, as you should, if you then find the specific unique. That being said, sure, Bloodwave is a bit too strong maybe, and some numbers should be twiddled down, especially the multiplier of the pants together with the aspect. But those were two absolute non-answers. I mean, at least on the loot filter, we get something. What is with Profane Mindcages, though? So we had the Profane Mindcages, if you remember correct, and they were used to buff the Hell Tides to get bonus levels on it to make the game harder. And my opinion is that Profane Mindcages should be something throughout the whole game. I want to take a Infernal Horde with 10 waves in Torment 4, and I want to slam a Profane Mindcage on. I want to corrupt it, anything, to make it bonus hard, bonus loot, bonus more of a challenge, because my build already eclipses every existing there. So allow me to juice it up further to take the term from a different RPG.
So another thing players have asked is more ways to control their gameplay. Profane Mindcages were really popular, and players are wondering if there's a way that they can incorporate that in these activities.
Yeah, so part of Progression 2.0 was to kind of incorporate that into the core gameplay experience, where like you could pick a higher torment difficulty, which made
we understand, but now think further, Aislinn. We're taking the no torment tiers, and then we're adding the mind cages on top.
Everything harder, but you got better rewards for that. But we totally acknowledge that like the directness of the Profane Mindcage was really cool. Yeah. The way that you could just very intentionally be like, actually, I want this activity to be way harder, and I'm going to very intentionally like use this consumable item I got to make that happen. And so it's something we're going to be keeping in mind for the future on like how can we incorporate that into different activities to potentially bring something like that back in the future.
It seems like
yes, that's what I would like to see. I know it's a Path of Exile 2 term, but being able to juice the difficulty of any activity is just great. Better Infernal Hordes, better Undercities, like the Helltide, even extra difficulty, whatever. If I want to make it harder for myself, just give me the tools to do it. And if I can get better loot like this, just give me the tools to do it. Do I have to do it? No, I could play in Torment 1, but I can also play in Torment 4, plus corrupting my Infernal Horde compasses for even more difficulty. Because I'm a goddamn weirdo and I have this Blood Wave build that's super overpowered, and I just want to feel alive again. Ladies and gentlemen, still playing? Anything else you'd like to add in the comments below that's desperately missing with Diablo? Don't forget to tell me. I am in the Diablo creator Discord. I can directly talk to the developers. I can send them your feedback. So don't feel bad about sharing, venting, frustration, saying this event is maybe useless, I'm not playing anyways anymore. Tell us. If you're now looking for a great barbarian or rogue to play, which is so fantastic, enjoy and have a fantastic good day.